Now, Rich Hoffman, shameless plug here for our own community here at PHLY. And if you ever want to consider supporting us here, becoming a diehard, I think you absolutely get your bang for your buck. Not only do you get a free shirt, you get an invite to our Discord channel where we have this madman named Vince that just gives away tickets all the time to people randomly. But more importantly, you get access to some of the best writers in the city. And Hannah Kaiser, who joined us from Citi Field, she put up a story, her first on allphly.com, about her time in the Phillies locker room after the game. So you should read that. And then our own Rich Hoffman wrote a story that I was reading this morning, and I wanted to float this by you guys because I agree with Rich a lot. We kind of are lockstep in the way we view sports and a lot of other things. And he wrote his worst 21st century Phillies season enders. And I had no disagreements with his list. Here, I'll read it to you guys, and then we can discuss amongst ourselves.
Okay.
He ranks the worst one as 2023, an unthinkable collapse against an inferior opponent when the Phillies were betting favorites to win the World Series. Do we all agree last year was the worst?
Of what? How long has it been? Since when?
The 21st century.
No, I think it's second.
You think it's second?
I think it's second.
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst.
Oh, I think it's the worst. 2011.
That's number one.
Okay, that's fine. I think you can flip-flop 1 and 2. Either way is fine. 2011.
It's the best team the Phillies have ever fielded. And
Here's
what
he says, Tyler. The best Phillies team of my lifetime.
Yeah.
With an untouchable pitching staff, can't score for Doc at home in Game 5. Ryan Howard tears his Achilles to make the loss even more painful. And as it turns out, it was the end of an era.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go 2011 as the worst one. They were the better team by far. And then, of course, there was month-long conversations about, well, they should have let the Braves get it. And shut up. No, your team won 104 games or whatever it was. It was the best team this organization's maybe ever assembled. You had a pitching staff that resembled an all-star team and an offense that was still good. It was still in its, relatively in its prime. Ryan Howard was still hitting 40 home runs. Jimmy Rollins was your catalyst. Chase Utley was still hitting 270, 280. Raul Ibanez, was Raul Ibanez on the team still?
Yes.
Raul Ibanez was on that team. You brought in Hunter Pence. It was a team that was destined to be maybe the culmination of that era because we kind of all knew that it was coming eventually. But to lose in the fashion that you did, where
Correct.
Not only did you lose Game 5 1-0, the one that haunts me even more is the Phillies spotted Cliff Lee a lead at home.
Well, we'll get to the rest. Oh, was that Game 4?
No, it was Game 2. They spotted Cliff Lee a lead in Game 2 because they
had an opportunity in Game 4 to really kind of.
Roy Halladay won. They won Game 1. They had an opportunity to jump up 2-0 before going back to St. Louis, and they spot Cliff Lee a lead. And he ends up. It was the one time that he kind of fell apart down, in that season. 2011 to me is definitively the biggest stab in the back I've ever had from this baseball team.
I had more respect for the Giants than I did for the Diamondbacks last year. That's why I kind of agree with Rich. Number 3, he puts as the 2010 Phillies team. The best team in baseball loses a close series in which every high leverage. Oh, I'm sorry. This Giants was 2010. Every high leverage moment seemingly went wrong. Cody Ross, man.
Yeah. You know what I think also makes it worse is, as we talked about from 2008, the slow, gradual trajectory and the downfall is you just kept thinking this is the year. 2011 is definitely the worst. I know everyone's talking about the squirrel. I know you guys are
squirrel.
Yeah, there's so many things that you just could never have predicted.
With good PR. That's all they are.
I don't think this has ever happened again. That's so many fluky things. But 2011 and 2010, and I still have this season rated a lot higher than I think most people do.
All right, well, we'll continue on his list. After 2010, he puts number 4 as this postseason. And then there's no words. It just says 2024. Number 5, he has as 2009, a huge missed opportunity in Game 4, but they were not quite as good as that Yankees team. Respectable loss, great title defense.
Yeah, the Yankees were the better team than them that year.
Alex Rodriguez was
also having a shell of the year prior. Cole Hamels wasn't right the entirety of the year. They had to bring in Pedro Martinez at midway through the year to stay afloat. The pitching staff just wasn't quite exactly where it was the year prior.
Yeah.
At least
that was the Pedro year, right?
Yeah, they brought Pedro in halfway through the year. That team, the 2009 Yankees, were better than the Phillies. And losing Cole Hamels really kind of not losing him, but like having a shell.
Not getting him. Yeah,
Cliff Lee was carrying the pitching staff on his back. He was sensational that year when they acquired him at the deadline. He wins game 1. I think he wins game 5 as well. And that's it. Those are the 2 games that they win. That Yankees team was better than them.
Yeah, and that's why it still hurts, but it hurts a little bit less when you lose to an actual good team because it could have gone either way.
Yes, and then he has number 6, 2022, so close to finishing off the improbable run, which felt within reach after battering Lance McCullers in game 3, but they lost to a great team like 2009. Lots of pride after that exit.
Yeah. Again, well, 2022, we all were very just happy that they were there. They barely got into the playoffs.
Yeah, you thought it was the beginning of something.
A World Series run. It just felt like as a Cinderella team, the magic is just not going to run out at some point, and you're just going to, finish the job once you get that far. You're a couple games away from winning another World Series. Personally, I like 2011 as number 1 in my opinion. I think 2011 and 2010 were just. It caught you very off guard. You weren't expecting them to lose. I actually think this season is higher than 2023. I know the NLCS versus Diamondbacks still haunts me to this day, but to have had this season that the Phillies did this year, where they were by far the best team in baseball and not get out of the NLDS, I had more expectation this year, especially after losing last year, that they weren't. I was like, there's no way they're going to have the same errors and the same mistakes end the season. So I actually would put this season probably like top 3, and it's not 1 or 2.
2022, so we talked about the discrepancy between the Yankees and the Phillies. The Yankees were a better team by a small margin. The Astros were a better team by a much wider margin.
Yeah.
I think people do get a little bit annoyed by the fact that the Phillies did go up 2-1 in the series. And I understand that you did have a series lead at one point and lost 3 consecutive games. The Astros were a much better team than the Phillies were that year. Yordan Alvarez was a man on a mission. And when you get no hit in a World Series game, I think that probably just deflates any kind of confidence that you're going to have for the rest of the series. The Astros were the better team. That
cold, couldn't get a hit.
That one's very low on the list for me. It was a wonderful season that I think we're all going to hold in esteem for a long time. It was unexpected. They got into the postseason late. They felt like they were dead on arrival, and for the first 8 innings of game 1 of a wild card round, they springboard that into a wild card win and a DS win over a Braves team that was great that year, and a CS team a win over the Padres, and Bedlam at the bank. It's a series. It's a season that I think we're all going to hold in pretty high esteem, despite the fact that they didn't get the job done. That's one of the least of my worries. That was just running into a buzzsaw Astros team.
So the final one on his list, number 7, is 2007.
Doesn't even exist.
It happened so fast that you could not get too disappointed. You won the division was enough that year. Jeff Francis was dealing anyway.
Yeah, they got blitzed by that. They got blitzed by that Colorado
Jeff Francis.
It was over before it even began. Colorado steamrolled its way into the postseason. They
like Kaz Matsui with a huge hit in that series.
Yeah,
isn't that like a bases loaded? Like
they swept the Phillies, they swept the NLCS, and then they got swept in the World Series. It was Colorado was on a torrid stretch that 07 year, like you said, it was just nice to get in. It was my first playoff experience ever as a Phillies fan.
Wow.
It is what it is. Like, and you knew that was just step 1. The Phillies were going to be back. And maybe you didn't think they were going to win the World Series in 08, but you knew they were going to be back and they were going to be around for a while.